everyone. This is John Daly again with BQB and Right Life Publishing. I'm here today with Mark Steven Porro, author of the new memoir, A Cup of Tea on the Commode. How's it going today, Mark?
Good. It's very good. Thanks.
Sure thing, sure thing. So I've been reading your bio. You have led a very interesting life, including as a professional actor. Can you tell people a bit about your background?
Okay. Originally, I wanted to be a doctor. In eighth grade, that was my focus. I wanted to be an eye surgeon. So I went to Ohio State because they had a good medical school, and that was my goal. And when I first went there, I was stuck in classes. I wasn't brilliant in my testing and stuff, but math and science I loved, but I also loved art. And I got stuck in all these classes with all the nerds that I avoided in high school. And I said, I can't do this for 12 years. So I started looking for something else. And I found they had one of the best design programs in the country. So I switched to design. But as children, my mother was, I call her the champion of the arts. We all were involved with the ballet. So I performed early on, but then I said I retired at 10 and never looked back at that. But I had when I started designing, and I love design, and I still do it. I had this pull to act for some reason. So I quit a brilliant design job, moved to Los Angeles, started taking acting classes, and got into the business. And my goal, I went in 1984, and my goal was to get on Hill Street Blues because that was one of the top shows, and I really respected. And I wanted to be a good actor. I wasn't just there to be a flash in the pan. And that was my first TV show on Hill Street Blues. I did one episode, and you get hooked. And so I did that for years. I kept designing, and I started a number of I call nonprofit companies, though none of them were intended to be. So I always kept busy. I always liked multitasking, so I kept busy with a lot of stuff. So I had a fairly good run in Hollywood. I did a lot of TV, a few movies, but a lot of TV in the 80s and early 90s, some independent films. And I had a very small part in Castaway with Tom Hanks. And everything you hear about Tom Hanks is true. He's a sweetheart. A lot of times that we work with stars, they come to the set, they do their thing, and they go. They don't chat with anybody because we're all little people. Hanks hung out with us, and it was great. I was the navigator in the crash scene. Though I did not cause the crash, I tried to save the plane. It just didn't work out. But I replaced an actor who actually ended up being a friend of mine. And I replaced him. So we split the money, and I still get more money from that show. It's now 24 years. We shot that in 1999, the first half. And then he took a year off. Tom took a year off to lose the weight. And he came back and shot the second half of the movie. And it was great fun. I did 3 days. Oh, in fact, so I live in France now. And I dated a French girl in Los Angeles who also tried to be an actress for 7 months. And it was a very difficult relationship. She was beautiful, but she was certainly not faithful. So it was a challenging relationship. So when I went to audition for the Castaway, we were going to be in the crash sequence. So they call it a gimbal. So the front of the plane is on this like roller coaster thing. And so the producer, after I passed the first round, then he said, okay, so you're going to be on this thing. You're going to be shaking for 3 days. Can you handle that? I said, I dated a French girl for 7 months. I can handle anything. He burst out laughing, and I knew I got the part. And it worked out great, and I made a fortune off of that thing. And I still make good money off it. It's crazy. And that was one of the smallest parts I ever did. So that's Hollywood. Um, yeah, okay. So that's the background. But design was always, I guess, in my background and continues to be. So I enjoy doing that. And that came into play actually with taking care of mom and writing the book and all that stuff. Because Hollywood got me into writing. I did screenplays and I did stand up for a while, so I wrote a lot of jokes and screenplays and This is the first book, but it helped. And it's a whole different way of writing for me. So I did a lot of studying on memoir and stuff like that before delving in. But during my experience, and also with my dad 17 years earlier, um, I kept notes and always did that because I knew I was going to use this somehow, whether I was going to write a movie about it or a play or something like that. So I always kept very detailed notes of any of my experiences, really. But this one was a long one. So this is about 3.5 years of notes. And there was some great dialogue with my mom. She had a very good sense of humor. And I'm glad I wrote all that stuff down because some of it's just precious. So,
Well, let's get into to the book a little bit. As you mentioned, this is your first book, A Cup of Tea on the Commode, and it is, as you say, as much about your late mother as it is about you. The two of you had a unique relationship, especially toward the end of her life. Can you tell us about that relationship and also a little more about her?
okay. So, my parents had 6 kids, and I was the fifth. So I'm the third son and the fifth out of the 6 kids. And so maybe I worn them down, or they were worn down with me. I was a very curious kid, and so I got my parents to open up about things that I think some of my siblings are going to be pretty surprised with some of the revelations in the book because I don't think they know these things. But I was not shy in questioning my parents about anything. And my mom, because they didn't have my parents did not have a great marriage. They had a typical Catholic marriage. You get married and you stay that way, whether you're miserable or not. And so I favored my mom, or certainly took pity on her because she didn't seem happy a lot of the time. She was great with us, but you could just say, that there were times where they got together and they were great, but there was a lot of tension in the house. So that drew me to my mother, trying to be, let's say, a protector. And there were a number of crises during our lifetime that I happened to be there for her. And so it just seemed natural that it would end up the way it did. So in 2011, my mother I was in LA, and my mother was living in her home that we grew up in. And we had to hire people because she started to fall down a lot in her mid 80s, early to mid 80s. So we hired some people to look out for her. And I think she just was not happy. So she just shut down. And my brother called me and told me what's going on. It was like she was on her deathbed. And so I came home and saw what was going on, looked around. So these people are not happy. They don't like my mother. My mother seemed like she wanted to die. And so something had to happen. So I kind of stepped in. And because I think some of the lessons that we grew up with both of my parents, they were very good people, and they cared about others quite a bit. So a lot of the lessons that I learned growing up was just normal. So your mother's in trouble, go help. There was no like, oh, but I got this, I got my business in California. It's like, no, drop it and go. And so that's pretty much what I did. And I think because of that, my mother felt that all the kids came home during this time. And I think it was what I think I say in the book is it was a silent cry for help. And all of her kids were there. And slowly but surely, she snapped out of it. And it got to a point where I started taking over, and my younger sister too. We got very hands-on because we learned hospice was in. So when hospice comes in, it's usually inevitable you're going to be gone within 6 months. So we learned from hospice how to do all this, how to change the bed with the patient in the bed, how to change the diapers, how to do the sponge bathing and all that kind of stuff. So we were very good students, and we took over, and mom snapped out of it. So at one point I asked her, I said, so you want me to come back and take care of you? And she said, yes. And that was it. So I made arrangements in California, and stepped in, and then I had another sister who lived in California. When I had to go back to California for business reasons, she would fly back in. So we would alternate, but I was pretty much the hands-on guy for most of the time, and and she was fun. I mean, she seemed like she wanted to die, but she snapped out of it. And she had a very dry sense of humor, and I tried to make it as much as fun as possible. I said, if I can get her to laugh at least once a day, that's great. And then I got her to eat, and we actually got her up and walking. She didn't walk for almost a year, and I got her up and walking again, not by herself, not without assistance, but she was willing to do it because I encouraged her. I said, "Come on, we got to start to exercise," because I wanted her to be around a long time. So I guess my relationship was different than the other siblings, but we all loved her. She was a lot of fun, and I found out later that a lot of my friends who are coming out of the woodwork now because of my promoting this book, people from my hometown are going, "Oh yeah, we loved the Porros. The Porros were the fun place to go because our parents were so fun." And it was good. My dad was filled with corny jokes and spread those around, and my mother was great with the snacks, and they were just really fun. And this opportunity presented itself for me to step in and be her caregiver, and it was great because I learned a lot, and I accomplished my goal. And we don't want to give away the ending, but
Oh, absolutely.
it was a fun ride.
Well, yeah, it's a very, very heartwarming story, and I think people are going to enjoy reading it. I'm curious, where does the title "A Cup of Tea on the Commode" come from? That's very unique.
I hope so. The okay, so we had a commode that was actually the one that we had from my dad years earlier, and so he set that by the bed. And when you get on the commode, sometimes things took quite a while. So we didn't want to rush mom. So her favorite beverage was a hot cup of tea, skim milk, no sugar. And so one day when she was on the commode and we're kind of sitting around waiting, and I said, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And she said, "Oh, that would be very nice." And so I brought her a cup of tea. And as I say in the book, I said it was a hit. So I started doing that on a regular basis. So I thought um, it's a fun, catchy title. So that's the one that stuck. So
Oh, great,
now it's
great.
interesting over in France, commode is a chest of drawers, like a bureau.
Oh,
So when we translate, it's got to be a very, very different translation if we translate it into French. So the cultural things will have an issue. Because I've had people in the Far East too, because I have people following me from all over the world because they love their mothers, which is great. But I had somebody from either India or Pakistan or something, and they said, "We don't drink coffee or tea on the commode. We just don't do that." And I said, "Okay, that's fine. So I guess you don't buy the book."
that's right.
So
No, there's a lot. I think there's a lot of tea drinkers out there too, who see that title and that they're really drawn to that. Um,
yeah.
what would you say? This is a question I always ask of authors because I find it very interesting. What would you say is the most rewarding? What was the most rewarding part about writing this book?
I guess, well, yeah, I would say capturing our journey and sharing it, not only the journey, but sharing my mom and my dad. My dad is, we write a lot about him in the book too. Um, Share it with more people. And there's some strangers who have read this, and also some strangers, not strangers, but people I've gotten to know who are going through a similar experience, who have really found some comfort in this book and our story. And I'm hoping to inspire other people to do it because uh, more people are likely to be stuck in a nursing home or have other people, strangers, take care of their parents. And I was able to do it. And I know it's difficult for other people to I guess, take that job on, because it's a stressful job, and you got to find the joy. My main goal, I guess I'm somewhat of an optimist, is you got to find the joy in it, no matter what. Because I have one sibling who I won't mention, who was amazed by this. She goes, "How do you do this?" I said, "You got to find the joy in it. No matter what you do, if you find the joy in it, it's not work. It's a breeze." Not totally, but if you put that idea in your head, it makes it so much easier. And then if you get a smile or a chuckle out of your mom, it's lovely. It's just yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to share not only that experience, but uh, my mom, because she was a very unique character.
And yeah, that's a great attitude to have too. I mean, I'm sure that brought a lot of joy to her life. Um, on the other side of that coin, what would you say was the most challenging part about writing this book?
Not enough tissues while writing. Um, I'm glad I was alone, and I didn't. I didn't. Let me see. I don't want to ruin the ending, but my mom. We have to. My mom passed in August of 2014, and I had all the notes, and I had a lot of videos and photos, but there's no way I could have written that then. I needed some separation because it was too much. Um, and then I moved to France in 2016, and this gave me the time to really sit and think about it and look at the notes and then start putting it together. But boy, even today, so it's almost 10 years later, when I'm reading this thing, I'm bawling. I'm a very emotional guy anyway, and out of the six kids, I'm probably the worst. And so it's tough, and I think if it's touching me still, this with this time lapse in between, it's going to touch other people. So that's I think the biggest challenge was, because you don't want to make it sappy and sentimental, and I'm pretty good at separating that, and that's where my experience as an actor and stuff comes in. You don't want sentimental. You don't want to cry. Actors, they say, actors try to cry. People do not try to cry. They try not to cry. And if you see them on the news and things like that, they're trying their hardest to keep those tears from coming. Um, and so I want the readers to maybe cry and not me so much. But I have to tell you, it's going to be really difficult doing the audiobook. I've tried to
Oh,
do a few chapters. Oh man, all my training's going to have to kick in, because that is just, oh, it's terrible.
well, it's a very endearing story, and I think a lot of readers are going to appreciate that you told it. And good luck with the audio book getting through that.
Yeah, I may
Um,
have to hire somebody.
That's right. No, I hear you. I hear you. A lot of people do, but yeah, you got a great voice for it. So yeah, I wish you luck. Well, thank you very much, Mark. This was a great time talking to you. I always enjoy meeting our authors sort of face to face. Most of the correspondence I have is through email and that sort of thing. So it's always good to sort of
Mhm.
get to know you all. Can you tell people how to find out more about you and a cup of tea on the commode?
Well, the website is a cup of tea on the commode.org. But if you Google a cup of tea on the commode, it's everywhere. On Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, Tumblr. It's crazy. And my publisher's done a wonderful job of getting this distributed around the world too, because there's languages that it's not translated into other languages yet, but it's on stores that I don't have any idea where they're from. There's lots of symbols, and the cover of the book is there. So I'm very happy. I just hope people understand what they're getting. So if you Google that, or you Google Mark Porro or Mark Steven Porro, we're all over the place too. Also, there's a YouTube channel, because I've created, I think, over 120 1 minute or less teasers that I've been releasing at least for a year, of those things. So some of them are very funny, because again, my mom had a really good sense of humor. So I riff off that a little bit. And Yeah, so it's, yeah, I'm easy to find.
Excellent, excellent. Well, good luck with your book. I know people are going to enjoy it, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, John. My pleasure.